Good morning, Baltimore. It is technically Friday, March 6th. By the time you're listening to this, it will be Saturday, March 7th, because here, Sam Cohn, Josh Tolentino, we're here to record our first inaugural emergency podcast, Early Birds emergency podcast, because there's some big news on the Ravens side. Josh, it's great to be with you here. It's almost 11 o'clock on the East Coast, so it's great to see you.
Yeah, man, I am coming to you from the famous writing chair, the Baltimore Sun spring training house. Obviously was down here covering Orioles spring training in Sarasota, but was with a lot of Baltimore fans when this news broke, and I'll let you spell it out for everyone listening. Ravens just got a whole lot better on that defensive front.
That's right. You just said it. So the Ravens traded for Maxx Crosby, the superstar pass rusher from the Las Vegas Raiders. The Ravens are sending 2 first-round picks, the number 14 pick in this 2026 NFL draft, and then their 2027 first-round pick. Obviously, the deal is contingent on Maxx Crosby passing a physical in Baltimore. It won't be official until the new league year opens this coming Wednesday. Free agency effectively begins this coming Monday at noon. That's when the legal tampering window opens. But as you said, the Ravens got a whole lot better. They got a 5-time Pro Bowler. They got a guy who's got 4 seasons of double-digit sacks. Maxx Crosby turns 29 in August. And yes, as you said again, the Ravens pass rush, and we're going to get into this, but the Ravens pass rush was one of the worst in the NFL, and this addition can put them in the conversation to potentially be one of the best. Josh, I want to start. Where were you when news dropped? Because I know you were with our other co-hosts, and I want to hear a little bit about how your night's going.
Yeah, so myself and Matt Wyrick, we covered the Orioles spring training game against the Cardinals yesterday at Ed Smith Stadium. And afterwards, it's actually Matt's last night here in Sarasota. So we went and had some ceremonial outro beverages at a nearby bar restaurant in Sarasota. We actually went out also with Jake Rill of MLB.com and Eric Arditi. And also, shout out to our editor, Tim Schwartz. A few of his high school buddies from Howard County came through. But anyway, so here we are, really just discussing both Ravens and Orioles throughout the night. And we actually were in a heated, let's say, animated conversation discussing the Ravens' needs and just how the offseason's going, how Tyler Linderbaum's not signed yet. And we were actually literally talking about the trenches and just how much beef they need there. And right in the middle of the conversation, Matt is tapping all of our shoulders, showing us his phone. And we are, basically, Sarasota, this is Camden Yards South, Baltimore South for all these Orioles fans who fill Ed Smith Stadium on a daily basis. So the bar was basically a majority Ravens and Orioles fans watching the WBC, trying to see if Gunnar Henderson is going to get in there. And everyone reacted all at the same time, passing the news along. And it really was such a chaotic scene, and obviously was able to take that in right there. And as soon as it happens, you get that adrenaline rush, because now it's time to get to work. And again, excited to be with you here on the Early Birds show, delivering our first emergency episode to really dissect this. But coming from Camden Yards South down here in Sarasota, the buzz is real amongst the fans that I was with, and trying to weave in and out, getting back again to our spring training home down here in Siesta Key, and here I am. This is actually, again, known as the writing chair. A lot of former Orioles columnists and writers have come through here and done a lot of this, writing on breaking news and features and columns. And I'm really looking forward to digging into one focused on Maxx Crosby and also Eric DaCosta, acting with a lot of urgency here, sending off his precious draft capital, Sam. I've written columns in the past throughout this offseason about just how much he cherishes these draft picks, how much it would take. And it came by the way of Maxx Crosby, who's coming out here to Baltimore as a 5-time Pro Bowler, only has played in 1 playoff game. So the Ravens, they are looking to get back to that late January stage, those big-time games under the lights. We've seen them suffer postseason regression these past 2 seasons. And now they get Maxx Crosby, hoping to stack his playoff games, joining Lamar Jackson, man, and Kyle Hamilton, the fellow stars on this team.
Yeah, so this is the first time the Ravens, it's an unprecedented move in Baltimore. This is the first time in 31 years the Ravens have ever sent a first round draft pick, not to mention, two first round draft picks for a guy of Maxx Crosby's ilk. It's the first time they've taken a step like this. It's the first time they've really taken a swing on going to get a player of this caliber. And if nothing else, and again, we're going to get into this, but if nothing else, it shows how serious they are about winning now, about capitalizing on their championship window. They certainly have other needs to fill. But coming out of this past season, this was the most pressing. And you mentioned Lamar Jackson. We'd be remiss not to talk about how earlier today we got an innocuous, what felt like trolling Lamar Jackson tweet. Him
You never know
posting a
what to
clip
expect
from
with Lamar Jackson and social media, as I've learned quickly.
Yeah, yeah. So he posts a clip from training day, and with an emoji of the brightest smile, boom, as it said, yes. And I mean, the immediate question was, okay, this is one of two things. Either, well, I guess maybe one of three. Lamar Jackson signs an extension. They got Maxx Crosby, or he got lunch and it was really good and he had a great time. Proved to be the Maxx Crosby one. So it's one of those things that, and I could do a whole other podcast about how frustrating this can be, but this is the world we live in where athletes can tweet what is seemingly an innocuous GIF or series of emojis that could mean absolutely nothing, but is up to us to speculate. And yeah, some exciting news. So I mean, let's just start there, Josh. What was your immediate reaction for how this improves a Ravens defense that, and particularly the pass rush, that for 2 seasons was one of the most dominant pass rushes in the entire National Football League, and then this past year, obviously, and we're going to talk about Nnamdi Madubuike. We should mention Nnamdi Madubuike, who a video came out. The timing was, maybe funny and interesting, but a video on social media of Nnamdi Madubuike, a sign of life, him working out in Texas. We haven't seen much or heard much about his situation, a season-ending neck injury in week 2. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how that progresses and if we soon learn anything more. But interesting timing to see a positive note with Nnamdi and then to get the news of Maxx Crosby. Josh, how does this night, what kind of feels like it might be a red letter date in the history of the Ravens defense and the current era of the Ravens defense, just your immediate reaction to how this bolsters their pass rush?
Nnamdi Madubuike, by the way, with a hashtag with his trainer down there, NFL offseason. So,
Not nothing.
yeah, and he sent out his own tweets earlier in the offseason. But I think regardless of Nnamdi Madubuike's playing future, and Eric DeCosta, when I asked him directly at the NFL scouting combine about 2 weeks ago now, about his future, it was almost as if the Ravens were in a holding pattern in a wait and see. So while it looks positive on that front, nothing too official yet. I mean, you want to feel optimistic, but again, regardless of Nnamdi's playing status, his playing future, the Ravens, Eric DeCosta knew that they had to augment, that is a word that he used at the scouting combine, they had to augment and improve this pass rush. And it suffered for many different reasons. This is something that Steve Bisciotti also acknowledged in his rare end-of-season news conference that they needed more beef and they needed to address the trenches, and they've got issues there. They've got an outgoing, aging pass rusher in Kyle Van Noy who, as Steve Bisciotti alluded to, he was not able to win a lot of his one-on-ones because of the missing presence there of Nnamdi. We did see Travis Jones take a step and get rewarded with his own contract extension late in the season. But, speaking of Travis Jones, a better run defender than he is a pass rusher, Maxx Crosby, he's about a jack of all trades, known as a plus run defender. Obviously had 10 sacks coming off this last season, in which he missed the last 2 games, Sam. An incredible feat for him. And I'm going to put you on the spot here, give you a little quiz. Maxx Crosby, he has played just over 100 career games. How many of those games do you think he's had multiple sacks?
Oh, multiple 20?
Man,
30?
you're close. You're close. He's had 17.
Shoot, just over.
Yeah, no, and you're again a 5-time Pro Bowler coming here to Baltimore, a Ravens defense that Just this past season, they only had 4 games, Sam. You and I sat next to each other every single game looking at each other like, where is the pass rush? They're not sniffing the quarterback. Only 4 games in which they registered more than 2 sacks. So I'm guessing with the addition with Maxx Crosby, that figure is going to go up. And, we'd be remiss that we've went this far without mentioning the guy in charge, Jesse Minter, who has engineered defensive turnarounds in Los Angeles. We saw him win a national title at Michigan, and now he gets a shiny new toy by the way of Maxx Crosby. Man, 2 stars across this defense. You can throw Roquan in there as well, but Kyle Hamilton manning the secondary, and now Maxx Crosby joining the fold. If you're Jesse Minter, you are shining a bright, big smile, I imagine, as he goes to bed tonight on Friday ahead of the start of free agency. And one more note on Eric DeCosta and him basically dropping his cojones and making a move this big as we've never seen before. Him and his scouting staff, they have been hard at work studying this entire draft class. Before we met with him at the Combine, he was literally, he told us in his hotel, studying a pass rusher. So they weren't just studying the draft class, but also a big-time pass rusher by the way of Mr. Maxx Crosby.
I was going to say, DeCosta did say he was in his hotel room watching a pass rusher. He did not say whether that was a draft prospect or not. Granted, I don't think he needs to watch much film of Maxx Crosby to understand the kind of player Baltimore would be getting. To go back, you mentioned Jesse Minter. He did a lot more with a lot less in Los Angeles. He's obviously going to be excited about adding a guy like Maxx Crosby into the fold. And I think the other piece of that is they also are hoping for a year or 2 jump for Mike Green. If Mike Green can be closer to the guy that they expected him to be, someone who really turned a corner in the second half of the year, Maxx Crosby's fiery, competitive nature, veteran presence could mean a lot for a guy like Mike Green. And, maybe they add another piece and they're really well on their way. Again, if Nnamdi Madubuike is available next season, that's a dangerous duo, and what they'd be able to do and with that pass rush and really reignite and recapture what feels like the lost fabric of menacing Ravens defense. That's what Maxx Crosby is. And remember that game in 2024 week 2, Ravens Raiders, and Maxx Crosby was a huge reason that the Raiders upset the Ravens, put them in an 0-2 hole to start the season. Lamar Jackson had a lot of nice things to say about Maxx Crosby after that game. I remember Lamar said something to the effect about how those two were jawing back and forth during the game, and Lamar was like, I was trash talking him back, I was talking crazy, whatever, and Maxx Crosby's like, Lamar, I just love your game. I think you're fantastic, and I think part of that's the mental game of getting inside there. But obviously those two have a lot of respect for each other, and Lamar is certainly excited to welcome him to Baltimore.
And so on the Lamar front, I'm so glad you bring this up, Sam. We're recording about 11 o'clock. I believe the news broke probably about an hour ago, so we're talking around the 9-10 p.m. range. Lamar Jackson, his tweet was at 2:09 p.m. Eastern time. So he knew quite a bit ahead of time that this significant news, he presumably knew that this big news was coming. You got to imagine that if he knew this, they're also talking about that contract extension and either a contract extension, a restructure, preferably an extension, because that will cure more headaches. But the Ravens, they do have a lot of financial gymnastics to get ahead of as this new league year approaches. Lamar Jackson, his cap hit skyrockets, as we've covered numerous times, our colleague Brian Wacker as well, and what needs to be done with Lamar's contract. You can check out all of that coverage on the Baltimore Sun for the exact figures, but a ballooning cap hit that exceeds over $70 million. So you got to imagine Lamar knew this news early, so he's in deep conversations, I would think. I don't think that microphone is broken anymore, inciting the last time the Ravens and him tried to get a deal done.
Yeah, you would think a big part of them being able to get this deal done is enough confidence, if it's not done already, is to be able to get that extension or some kind of contract restructure done with Lamar to be able to go get a guy like Maxx Crosby. And I think this is exactly what Lamar wanted. I mean, he knows how close this team is to getting over the hump of making it to the Super Bowl. You know, he was the one that put on all the magic in the fourth quarter in Week 18 in Pittsburgh, and he certainly had his faults throughout the season, but he knows what that offense is capable of, and he knows and he watched how that defense just really crumbled down the stretch and how much talent that group has. But as you have talked about plenty of times on this very podcast, like, they never got home with Aaron Rodgers. And that was a huge issue in that Week 18 game. That was a huge reason they could not being able to affect the passer, and the Steelers offense was able to do way too much. So Lamar Jackson certainly excited to have that help on the other side. And with a defensive-minded coach, a proven defensive coordinator in Anthony Weaver, and then bringing in a guy like Maxx Crosby, being willing to spend some money, says a lot about where Eric DeCosta feels this team is and where this team can go. You mentioned before how DeCosta acknowledged that they needed to augment the pass rush. The other thing he acknowledged is that recent Super Bowl champions have had a guy, he didn't mention Maxx Crosby by name, but have had pass rushing groups that have impacted games at a high level, and the Ravens have not had that. One conversation I've had just kind of in passing with other folks around the beat is like, if you're the Ravens and you get deep into a playoff game and it's the fourth quarter and you need to stop, who on the Ravens is going to give you the sack that is going to alter the game? And the best answer, I think, especially maybe just this past year, that you could give is Kyle Hamilton. Travis Jones wasn't getting home as much as he should have, and they didn't have another guy who could get in the backfield at will. And Maxx Crosby can be that guy. He can deliver the big hit when they need it. You look at the Seahawks and the Philadelphia Eagles the past 2 years, their pass rush sent four, got home, and affected games. And the Ravens defense, the Ravens front, has not been able to do that.
6 sacks for the Seahawks, 6 sacks for the Super Bowl winning Eagles the season prior. I'd bet I'm taking a quick scroll right here, Sam. Yep, the Ravens, they never sniffed that number. Their season high just once of 4, and in all of their losses, let's go through here really quick and just how bad the pass rush is. Knowing again that Nnamdi Madubuike went down in week 2, that week 1 loss at Buffalo, we all remember what happened there. Obviously, Josh Allen able to get the ball to basically whoever he wanted, especially in that fourth quarter, 1 sack. And their loss against the Lions at home, where they were terrible is not even a far stretch. I was trying to stop myself. Literally the worst home record in franchise history to open the season, prime time. That was their second home game of the season, but their first in prime time at home. 0 sacks against the Detroit Lions. It's a similar log down the list. 1-0. 1-0-1-0. I mean, it just a familiar
Sounds
number.
Like you're typing in code.
Yes, that just kept showing up. And, we talked about Maxx Crosby's impact in the pass game, but again, also he's a plus guy in the run game. And I'm sure getting to Jesse Minter and Anthony Weaver, who has all of that experience being here in Baltimore as a former player and coach, he's going to the Raven Way is a phrase that these coaches like to incorporate with anyone who comes through this building. They're going to try to do their best to instill that into Maxx Crosby, who, by the way, Sam, so on my way home, again, was at basically here in Camden Yards South in Sarasota, making my way back to here so we can emergency pod and get content out on the Baltimore Sun and Early Birds. I reached out to someone inside the Raiders front office, and I'll just read his text. And basically I was like, give me the lowdown on Maxx Crosby. And he is someone who has worked with Max, even dating back to his first season in Oakland, and they both moved, obviously, to Las Vegas, where they have been the past several seasons. And he said, you will really like him. He's a true professional. Definitely will miss working with him every day. So a short message, but the consummate of a true professional. I'm looking forward to his introductory press conference whenever that ends up being, and just the character that he is. Another podcast that we'll be listening to, joining the Ravens player.
Right. He's got his own pod. Oh,
Joining the Ravens defensive player podcast. A nod to Marlon Humphrey, but.
Can we get them to go on each other's podcasts, talk about the Ravens defense?
Right, shoot. Maybe we'll even ask them to come on Early Birds, but
exactly.
Man, just getting back to Jesse Minter. I'm sure he is fired up to be gaining one Maxx Crosby.
And the biggest thing, and we're going to pivot in a sec to just how this impacts their draft plans in a couple months, but we've had this conversation before. The Ravens getting away from what was once a feared defense. Maxx Crosby is the ultra competitor. You mentioned earlier how he sat out the last 2 games of this past season. There was a lot of speculation, some conspiracy theories going around that knee injury was a bit exaggerated because the Raiders wanted to do what they could to secure the number 1 overall pick in Fernando Mendoza this coming April, a quarterback from Indiana. So he's not the kind of guy who takes that kind of stuff lightly. He is not someone who has played in very many playoff games. If I'm remembering correctly, he's only played in 1 playoff game. So joins a team that has a chance to be an immediate Super Bowl contender. We were having these conversations at the start of last season, and we know how that went. This team is going to have similar expectations coming into this season. There's no doubt about that. But part of this deal, they lose their first-round pick in the 2026 draft. So at the end of April, come night 1 of the draft, they will not have a pick in the first round. Their first pick, as it stands right now, won't come until the second round with pick number 13. They'll have a pick in the 3rd round, 4th round, and then they'll go, I think it's 4 in the 5th round, et cetera, et cetera. So, Josh, I think this was a big question about the draft. Do you go edge rusher in the first round? Do you beef up the offensive line in the first round? As it stands now, your immediate reaction to the Maxx Crosby deal, waiting until the second round, what do you envision the Ravens may be doing with that second-round draft pick from a positional standpoint?
I think they've got to keep building the trenches, whether that be adding a defensive tackle if there's a nice one there, or, we know the holes that this offensive line has and the lingering questions that, could very well be solved in the next couple days if they're able to get a deal done with Tyler Linderbaum, their multi-Pro Bowl center. But man, as the days get closer to the legal tampering period opening, you get less optimism that a deal is going to be done. But maybe the Ravens' priorities have shifted behind the scenes as they acquire a 5-time Pro Bowl defensive end in Maxx Crosby. Sam, I don't even think this would be a stretch to say this is the biggest trade in franchise history.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt, the fact that they've never sent a first-round pick to another team for a player says it all. This is an unprecedented move. It's a first for them, and as we sit here, I don't think it's hyperbole to call this the biggest trade in Ravens history.
Maxx Crosby, 4 double-digit sack seasons in his 7-year career, coming off 10 sacks again in the season that we just described when he was battling injury at the end. The next, since he's been in the league in 2019, he has upwards of 350 pressures. I believe that's the most of any defensive player in that span. So even when he is not getting these sacks, he is affecting the quarterback. He is affecting rush decisions, and he is certainly helping a secondary that suffered 31st pass rank defense this past season. Another area that Jesse Minter is hoping to fix.
Josh, from the famed Baltimore Sun writing chair, thank you so much for jumping on our first emergency podcast late into Friday night. Go back to writing, go back to enjoying your night. And Matt and I will have an episode Monday morning, diving a little bit more into this deal, where things stand with the Orioles, and moving forward with this, which is an exciting time. If you're a Ravens fan, this is a long time coming, and it's crazy to believe this deal actually happened.
This was fun, man. Getting that adrenaline rush and getting back home, wanting to create content and really just analyze all of this information for our loyal listeners here at Early Birds. You can find us wherever you get our podcast. But Man, looking forward to listening to you and Matt as well on your guys' next episode as you really dive in on what this means for this franchise. But was pumped to get this one done on the emergency pod, our first one, hopefully first of many. Let's CC Mike Elias and Eric DaCosta on that front.
Yeah, maybe we'll get another big move in a couple days and we'll do this again. Thank you all for listening. Have a great night, everybody. Take care.